In the faded hallways of Willow Creek High School, where lockers slammed like punctuation marks in the chaos of teenage life, Jordan Hayes and Riley Thompson were inseparable. It was the kind of friendship that felt eternal, forged in the fires of shared secrets and late-night adventures. Jordan, with his messy brown hair and a grin that could disarm even the strictest teacher, was the dreamer, the one who sketched comic book heroes during math class and dreamed of turning his doodles into a career. Riley, sharp-witted and athletic, with freckles across her nose and a laugh that echoed like wind chimes, was the anchor. She excelled in track and field, her long legs carrying her to victory after victory, while her mind raced ahead, plotting futures in journalism or law. They met in freshman year, assigned as lab partners in biology. Jordan's clumsy dissection of a frog had Riley doubled over in laughter, and from there, it was history. They spent lunches under the old oak tree in the courtyard, trading stories, Jordan's about his single mom working double shifts at the diner, Riley's about her overachieving parents who expected nothing less than perfection. Weekends were for biking through the winding trails of the nearby woods, where they'd build forts from fallen branches and confess fears. Jordan's worry that he'd never escape the small town, Riley's dread of disappointing her family. One crisp autumn afternoon during their junior year, they sat on a log by the creek, skipping stones across the rippling water. The air smelled of damp earth and falling leaves, a perfect backdrop to their easy camaraderie. "What if we end up in different places?" Jordan asked, his voice tentative as he watched a stone sink after a single skip. Riley tossed another pebble, watching it bounce 4 times before vanishing. "Doesn't matter, we'll always find our way back. Best friends forever, right?" He nodded, but a shadow crossed his face. Life had a way of making promises feel fragile. By senior year, cracks appeared. Jordan's mom fell ill, forcing him to take a part-time job at the local hardware store, cutting into their hangout time. Riley's parents pushed her towards scholarships, filling her schedule with AP classes and college prep courses. Prom night was their last big memory, Jordan in a rented tux that hung a bit loose on his lanky frame, Riley in a shimmering blue dress that caught the light like water. They danced under string lights in the gym, her head resting on his shoulder, the air thick with the scent of cheap cologne and unspoken words. "Don't forget me when you're famous," she teased, her breath warm against his ear. "I could never," he replied, his heart aching with something more than friendship, though he buried it deep, afraid to risk what they had. Graduation came like a whirlwind, diplomas clutched in sweaty hands under clear sky. Riley won a full ride to a prestigious university across the country, majoring in communications. Jordan stayed local, enrolling in community college while caring for his mom and honing his art skills at night. They promised to stay in touch, texts, calls, visits, but life, relentless and unforgiving, had other plans. Years slipped by like pages in a forgotten book. Jordan's path twisted through hardship and quiet triumphs. His mom's cancer battle dragged on for 2 grueling years before reaching remission, but the medical bills piled up like an insurmountable wall, forcing him to drop out of college after just 1 semester. He moved to a bustling city 3 hours away, scraping by as a barista in a trendy coffee shop while freelancing illustrations for indie comics online. Art became his solace, late nights hunched over a digital tablet in his cramped studio apartment, creating worlds where heroes always triumphed over adversity. The glow of the screen was his only company most evenings, the hum of the city outside a distant reminder of the life he craved. Subplots wove through his days, adding layers to his solitary existence. A mentorship with an agging comic book legend named Victor, whom he met at a local convention, became a lifeline. Victor, with his gravelly voice and ink-stained fingers, saw potential in Jordan's raw talent, but pushed him relentlessly. "Talent's nothing without grit, kid," Victor grumbled during their weekly critiques in a smoky backroom of a comic shop. Jordan entered contests, facing rejections that strung like old wounds, each no echoing his fears of failure. One particularly gritty subplot involved a shady gig illustrating for an underground publisher. The pay was decent enough to cover rent, but Jordan soon uncovered unethical practices, faked signatures on limited edition prints, exploiting young artists by underpaying them while reselling at markup. His conscience gnawed at him. After confronting the owner in a tense meeting, he walked away, jobless, but with his integrity intact. Word spread in the tight-knit community, earning him respect and leading to a breakthrough, a contract with a small press for his original series, Shadow Guardians, a tale of vigilantes fighting corporate corruption in a dystopian world. The first issue sold modestly, but it was a start. Yet loneliness lingered like a persistent fog. Jordan often thought of Riley, wondering where she was. Social media searches yielded nothing. She'd gone off the grid, or so it seemed. He dated sporadically, a kind librarian named Emma who shared his love of graphic novels, a spirited musician called Lena whose gigs he photographed, but nothing stuck. "You're looking for something that's not there," his mom said during his monthly visits home, her health improving but her worry for him constant. She was right. He compared every connection to the effortless one he'd had with Riley. Meanwhile, Riley's life veered into ambition's sharp turns. At university, she thrived amid the ivy-covered buildings and late-night study sessions, interning at campus newspapers and graduating with honors. She landed a job as a reporter for a mid-sized news outlet in a bustling metropolis, chasing stories from city hall scandals to human interest pieces that tugged at heartstrings. Her parents beamed with pride during her infrequent visits, but the pressure mounted, a constant weight on her shoulders. A subplot emerged in her early career, covering a corruption case involving a local politician that put her in danger. Anonymous threats slipped under her apartment door, notes scrawled in block letters warning her to back off. It taught her resilience, forcing her to install a security system and lean on colleagues for support. The story broke, earning her a promotion to investigative reporter, but also burnout. Sleepless nights became the norm, her apartment a mess of notebooks and coffee stains. Romantically, Riley navigated choppy waters. She dated a fellow journalist named Alex, whose charm masked controlling tendencies. Their relationship crumbled after a year when he belittled her aspirations during a heated argument over her long hours. "You're too intense for this job, it's going to break you," he sneered, slamming the door on his way out. Single again, she focused on work, traveling for assignments, to remote towns for environmental exposés, overseas for cultural features that broadened her worldview. But in quiet hotel rooms, with only the hum of air conditioning for company, memories of Jordan surfaced. His easy laugh, the way he'd draw her as a superhero in his notebooks during study hall. A darker subplot unfolded when her father suffered a heart attack during her third year on the job, pulling her home for months. Caring for him in the family house, feeding him bland meals, helping with physical therapy, revealed family secrets that shattered her illusions. Her parents' marriage was strained, held together by habit rather than love, and hidden debts from bad investments threatened their stability. "We've been pretending for years," her mother confessed one night over tea, tears streaming down her face. Riley realized she'd distanced herself from old friends, including Jordan, fearing the pull of the past would drag her back to a life she thought she'd outgrown. The experience forced her to confront her own avoidance of vulnerability, prompting therapy sessions where she unpacked the pressure to be perfect. Life's paths, divergent and winding, carried them forward, Jordan building his art empire from scraps, Riley climbing the ladder of journalism with determination. But echoes of their friendship whispered in dreams, a thread waiting to be rewoven. Fate intervened on a rainy spring day in the city where Jordan now lived. He was at a comic convention, manning a booth for his Shadow Guardians series. The hall buzzed with fans in elaborate costumes, vendors hawking merchandise, the air thick with excitement and the faint scent of popcorn. Jordan signed copies, his hand cramping from the Sharpie, but his spirits high. His book had hit a bestseller list for indie comics, a milestone he'd celebrated alone with a beer the night before. Across the crowded aisle, Riley wandered the floor. She'd been assigned to cover the event for a feature on pop culture's rise, her notebook filled with scribbled quotes from cosplayers. Dressed in jeans and a blazer, camera slung over her shoulder, she interviewed artists about their inspirations. Turning a corner, she froze. There behind a table stacked with graphic novels was Jordan, older, with stubble framing his jaw and a confident posture, but unmistakably him, his grin unchanged. "Jordan," she breathed, approaching tentatively, her heart pounding like it had during track meets. He looked up, his pen hovering mid-signature. Recognition dawned, his eyes widening in disbelief. Riley, no way, Riley Thompson. They stared for a beat, time collapsing around them. She laughed, the sound cutting through the convention's din like a familiar melody. In the flesh, what are the odds? He stood rounding the table for a hug, awkward at first, then warm, like slipping into a familiar coat after years in the cold. You look amazing. What are you doing here? Reporting for a story. And you, this is your work. She picked up a copy of Shadow Guardians, flipping through the pages of vibrant panels depicting shadowy figures battling injustice. Yeah, finally made it happen. Pride laced his voice, tempered with humility. They talked between fans interrupting for autographs. Riley interviewed him for her article, but it stretched beyond professional, catching up on lost years, the words tumbling out. I tried finding you online a few times, he admitted. Figured you'd be some big-shot anchor by now. She shrugged, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. I keep a low profile. Life got busy. She didn't mention the threats or heartaches yet. As the convention wound down, Jordan suggested coffee at a nearby diner, for old time's sake. Riley agreed, and over steaming mugs amid the clatter of dishes, the barriers crumbled. They reminisced about school pranks, the Creek adventures, that disastrous biology lab. Remember when we snuck out to that concert in the next town? Jordan chuckled, stirring his coffee. How could I forget? You drew the band logo on my arm in Sharpie. It took weeks to fade, and my mom grounded me for a month. Laughter bridged the gap, easing the awkwardness of time lost. They exchanged numbers again, promising not to let it slip away this time. Friends forever, right? Riley echoed their old vow, her eyes sparkling. Absolutely, Jordan replied, meaning it. Reconnection was gradual, like dawn breaking over the horizon. Texts started simple. Saw this and thought of you, Jordan sending a photo of a creek similar to their old spot, Riley replying with an article link on emerging artists. Calls followed, late-night ones where vulnerability seeped in over the phone's static. Jordan shared his mom's health scare in detail, the fear that had gripped him. Riley confessed her father's illness and the family secrets it unearthed, her voice cracking slightly. Subplots enriched their renewed bond, adding texture to their interactions. Jordan invited Riley to his studio, a sunlit loft filled with easels, digital screens, and the faint smell of takeout containers. She watched him work, inspired by his dedication, her fingers itching to sketch as he explained his process. In turn, she brought him to a press event at City Hall, introducing him to her world of deadlines and scoops, where he snapped photos discreetly. A subplot involved Jordan's ongoing mentorship with Victor, who met Riley during a critique session and declared gruffly, "She's the spark you needed, kid. Don't let her go." Victor's health declined rapidly after that, lung issues from years of smoking, adding emotional weight. Jordan cared for him, visiting the hospital with meals, mirroring his past with his mom, and Riley supported him through it, bringing coffee and listening to his frustrations. Riley's career subplot intensified. She pursued a big story on corporate fraud at a tech firm, facing pushback from editors wary of lawsuits. Jordan became her sounding board, sketching visuals for her pitches during their video calls. "You're fearless," he said one evening as they walked through a leafy park, the autumn leaves crunching underfoot. "Not always," she admitted, kicking a pile of leaves. "I ran from a lot after school, including you." "Why?" he asked, stopping to face her. "Fear of not measuring up, of life changing too fast. I thought if I kept moving, I wouldn't have to face the what-ifs." He nodded, understanding all too well. "Me too, but here we are." Friendship deepened into something unspoken, a current beneath the surface. They spent weekends exploring the city, art museums where Jordan explained brush techniques with animated gestures. Beaches where Riley taught him to skip stones again, the salty breeze tangling her hair. A subplot emerged with Jordan's ex, Mia, who reappeared at a gallery show for his work, stirring unexpected jealousy in Riley. Mia cornered Jordan, flirting subtly, but he brushed her off. "She's history," he assured Riley later that night over wine, his hand on hers. "You're my present." Riley faced her own ghost. Alex, her controlling ex, emailed her about a job opportunity at his new outlet, trying to worm his way back in with false charm. She confided in Jordan during a rainy afternoon in his studio, showing him the message. "He always made me feel small," she said. Jordan's face hardened. "You deserve better, someone who sees your strength." His gaze lingered, charged with meaning. Tension built during a road trip to their hometown, a subplot to visit family and tie up loose ends. Driving the winding roads in Jordan's beat-up sedan, with playlists from high school blasting, they revisited the creek, now overgrown with vines and wildflowers. Sitting on that same weathered log, emotions surfaced amid the chirp of birds and the gentle rush of water. "I've missed this, you more than I realized," Jordan confessed, his voice low. Riley's heart raced, the air between them electric. "Me too, but what if we ruin the friendship?" "We won't," he said, leaning in. "This feels right, like it was always meant to be." Their first kiss was tentative, under a canopy of stars that night, igniting what had simmered since school. Back in the city, romance bloomed, dates at cozy restaurants with candlelight flickering, nights tangled in sheets in her apartment, sharing dreams whispered in the dark. Subplots added conflict. Jordan's publisher demanded more output for the TV adaptation pitch, straining his time and leading to late nights that left him exhausted. Riley's fraud story hit a wall when a key source backed out, plunging her into self-doubt and long hours at the office. A major twist subplot unfolded. While researching her story, Riley discovered a link to Jordan's past. The shady publisher he'd worked for years ago was a subsidiary of the same company she was investigating, tied to the fraud. Documents she uncovered mentioned his name in passing. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked, confronting him in his studio, papers scattered on the table. Jordan ran a hand through his hair, guilt etching his features. "I was ashamed. It was a mistake. I got out as soon as I realized. I didn't want you to think less of me." Trust wavered, a storm cloud over their budding love. Riley stormed out, needing space, but after a sleepless night, she returned. They talked it through for hours, tears and apologies flowing. "No more secrets," they vowed, emerging stronger, the subplot resolving as her story incorporated the info anonymously, leading to arrests. Jordan's comic series gained traction, optioned for a TV adaptation that promised stability. Riley's article broke the fraud case wide open, earning her accolades and a book deal offer. Success paralleled their love, but challenges tested them. Jordan's mom relapsed briefly, requiring his attention. Riley's parents finalized their divorce, pulling her into emotional support roles. Through it all, they leaned on each other, their bond a steady anchor. 2 years after reuniting, on a crisp evening by the creek during another hometown visit, Jordan knelt on the soft grass, the setting sun painting the water golden. "Riley, you were my best friend, my anchor through everything. Now you're my everything, my partner in every adventure. Marry me." Tears streamed down her face as she nodded, pulling him up for a kiss. Yes, 1,000 times yes. The ring, a simple band with a stone echoing the blue of her prom dress, slipped on perfectly, symbolizing their full-circle journey. Their wedding was intimate, under the old oak tree at Willow Creek High, surrounded by family and friends on a warm summer day. Jordan's mom walked him down the aisle, healthy and beaming with pride. Riley's parents, amicable post-divorce, sat together in the front row, a sign of healing. Vows wove in their history, from lab partners to life partners, Jordan said, his voice steady. Riley added, through paths diverged and reunited forever, through every subplot and twist. The reception buzzed with laughter, dancing like prom under twinkling lights, toasts recounting school antics and their rekindled love. As they honeymooned on a coastal escape, sketching and writing together on sun-drenched beaches, they knew life would bring more turns, career highs, family joys, inevitable lows. But hand in hand, they were ready, their story a testament to second chances. In the end, their love wasn't just a fairy tale. It was redemption, woven from the echoes of lost laughter that had led them home to each other.